Jake Morrison stood at the giant window of his office on the top floor of Morrison Tower. The building reached high into the clouds above New Earth City. Below him, thousands of people moved like tiny dots on the streets. Ships flew between the tall buildings carrying workers and goods across the planet. But Jake did not care about the people below. He only cared about the numbers on his screen. His company, Morrison Dynamics, owned more spaceships than any other human business. His workers dug valuable metals from dead planets in 12 different star systems. His factories built the engines that powered human ships across the galaxy. At 45 years old, Jake controlled more wealth than most planets could imagine. The door to his office opened. His assistant, Kevin Brown, walked in carrying a thick folder. Kevin had worked for Jake for 8 years. He knew better than to waste time with small talk. "The quarterly reports from all sectors, sir," Kevin said, placing the folder on Jake's desk. "Mining output is up 18%. The Titan facility finished ahead of schedule, and the board meeting is set for tomorrow at 9. Jake nodded, without looking away from his screen. "What about the new Austin operation?" "Some problems, sir. The local workers are asking for better safety equipment, and there have been more alien refugee ships trying to land near our facilities." Jake finally turned around. His face showed no emotion. "Tell the site manager to ignore the refugee ships. They are not our problem. As for the workers, remind them that they signed contracts. They can work under our conditions or find jobs elsewhere." Kevin made notes on his tablet. "Yes, sir. Also, the Galactic Trade Council sent another invitation for you to attend their peace summit next month." "Delete it," Jake said. "I have no interest in sitting around talking with alien politicians. Business comes first." After Kevin left, Jake returned to his work. The reports showed everything running smoothly. His mining ships pulled rare quantum crystals from asteroid fields. His factories turned raw materials into advanced technology. His transport ships carried goods to human colonies across known space. Jake had built this empire with one simple rule: trust no one completely. In business, emotions made people weak. Love made them stupid. Friendship made them careless. For 30 years, Jake had avoided all of these traps. He had no wife, no children, no close friends. He lived alone in his penthouse apartment. He ate alone, worked alone, and made decisions alone. This approach had made him the richest human in the galaxy. While other business leaders wasted time on personal relationships, Jake focused on expanding human power among the stars. The galaxy was full of alien species who had ruled for thousands of years. The Xanthari Empire controlled over 100 worlds. The Crystalline Confederation had technology that humans could barely understand. But Jake refused to let these ancient powers intimidate humanity. The phone on his desk buzzed. "Mr. Morrison," came Kevin's voice through the speaker. "There's a call from Captain Rodriguez on the mining ship Hercules." "Put him through." The screen on Jake's desk lit up with the face of Captain Rodriguez, a tough man with scars across his cheek. Behind him, Jake could see the bridge of the mining ship floating in space near a large asteroid. "Mr. Morrison, we have a situation out here," Rodriguez said. "3 Xanthari warships just entered our sector. They're demanding we stop mining operations immediately." Jake leaned forward. "On what grounds?" "They claim this asteroid field belongs to them. Say we're trespassing in Xanthari space." Jake studied the star charts on his secondary screen. "That asteroid field has been registered as human territory for 5 years. Tell the Xanthari to check their own records." Rodriguez looked uncomfortable. "Sir, they have bigger guns than we do. Maybe we should consider their request." "Absolutely not." Jake's voice turned cold. "Humanity did not expand into the galaxy by backing down to alien threats. Continue mining operations. I'll contact the Human Defense Fleet and have them send a patrol ship to your location." "Understood, sir." After the call ended, Jake immediately contacted Admiral Parker at Fleet Command. Within an hour, human warships were heading toward the mining operation. Jake knew the Xanthari would back down when they saw armed human ships approaching. Most alien species respected only strength. This was exactly the kind of situation that proved Jake's philosophy correct. Emotional leaders would have worried about starting a conflict. They would have tried to negotiate or compromise. Jake simply showed strength and got results. The rest of the day passed with the usual business. Jake reviewed expansion plans for 3 new star systems. He approved the construction of a massive new factory ship. He rejected a proposal to hire alien workers for human facilities. By evening, he was alone in his office while the city lights glowed below. Jake often worked late into the night. His apartment held no attraction for him. The large rooms felt empty, but he preferred emptiness to the complications that came with other people. He had learned this lesson early in his career when a business partner had tried to cheat him. Since then, Jake had trusted only himself. The communication system chimed with an incoming message. Jake opened it to find a report from New Austin, one of his most important mining colonies. The planet produced 30% of the quantum crystals that powered human faster-than-light engines. The report showed good production numbers, but there was a note about increased alien refugee activity in the area. Jake frowned as he read the details. Hundreds of alien families were fleeing some kind of conflict in Xanthari space. They had been landing on human frontier worlds, asking for shelter and food. The local authorities on New Austin were allowing them to stay in temporary camps near human settlements. This disturbed Jake. Aliens who came to human worlds usually wanted something. They might be spies gathering information about human defenses, or they might be preparing for some kind of invasion. Either way, Jake did not trust them. He made a note to send new orders to New Austin. The alien refugees would have to find somewhere else to go. Human colonies existed to serve human interests, not to provide charity for alien problems. Jake worked until midnight, then finally returned to his empty apartment. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new opportunities to expand human power in the galaxy. He would face them alone as always, without the weakness that came from caring about anyone else. Jake Morrison's luxury transport ship shook violently as another explosion rocked the hull. Alarms blared throughout the cabin while his pilot, Captain Mills, fought to control the ship. Through the viewport, Jake could see 3 Xanthari attack, ships firing plasma bolts at his vessel. "Sir, we have major engine damage," Mills shouted over the noise. "I'm putting us down on New Austin. It's our only chance." Jake gripped his seat as the ship plunged toward the planet below. He had been traveling to inspect the mining facilities on New Austin when the Xanthari ships appeared from nowhere. This was not a random patrol. This was a planned attack. The transport ship crashed hard into the dusty ground outside Red Rock Station, the main settlement near Jake's mining operations. Smoke poured from the damaged engines. Jake climbed out of the wreckage, his expensive suit torn and dirty. Captain Mills limped beside him, blood running from a cut on his forehead. "The communication system is dead," Mills said. "We can't contact your security team or the mining facility." Jake looked around at the small frontier. Town wooden buildings lined a single main street. A few ground vehicles sat parked in the dust. This was not the kind of place where Jake Morrison usually found himself stranded. "How long until you can repair the ship?" Jake asked. Mills examined the smoking wreckage. 3 days, maybe 4. I'll need parts from the mining facility, assuming they have what we need." Jake had no choice but to wait. He walked toward the town, hoping to find transportation to his mining complex. The attack had clearly been planned to strand him here, but he did not understand why. Red Rock Station looked like every other frontier settlement Jake had seen. Humans and aliens mixed together on the dusty streets. He saw Xanthari refugees carrying bundles of possessions. Blue-skinned Eldorians worked alongside human mechanics. Even a few tall, crystal-like beings from the Confederation moved through the crowd. Jake felt uncomfortable surrounded by so many aliens. On his corporate worlds, humans and aliens worked in separate areas. Here, they seemed to live and work together as if it were normal. The largest building on the main street had a sign that read Murphy's Cantina. Jake could hear voices and music coming from inside. Since his communication was down and he needed information about transportation, he decided to enter. The cantina was full of smoke and noise. Humans sat at tables with alien beings Jake had never seen before. At the bar, A young woman with dark hair served drinks to a mixed crowd of customers. She moved quickly between human miners and alien traders, speaking different languages with each group. Jake approached the bar and sat on an empty stool. The woman turned to him with a friendly smile. "What can I get you?" she asked. "Information," Jake said. "I need transportation to the Morrison mining facility." The woman studied his torn suit and dirty face. "You're Jake Morrison." It was not a question. Jake nodded, surprised that someone in this remote place recognized him. "I'm Lisa Chen," she said, extending her hand. "I own this place with my partner Murphy, and I'm afraid the mining facility is shut down right now." Jake ignored her offered handshake. "Shut down? By whose authority?" "By the authority of common sense," Lisa replied, pulling her hand back. "There have been 3 more Xanthari attacks today. Your security chief ordered all workers to stay in the protected areas until the threat passes." Jake felt anger building inside him. "Those workers are paid to mine crystals, not hide from alien raiders." Lisa's friendly expression changed. "Those workers are paid to do a job, not to die. The Xanthari have been hitting human settlements all week. People are scared." Around them, conversations continued in multiple languages. Jake noticed that Lisa seemed to understand most of them. When a tall Xanthari at the end of the bar called out something in his own language, Lisa responded fluently. "You speak their language," Jake observed. "I speak 6 alien languages," Lisa said. "I studied xenobiology before I came out here. Understanding other species was my specialty." Jake found this interesting despite himself. Most humans who dealt with aliens used translation devices. "Why did you leave research to run a bar?" Lisa's expression darkened. Funding was cut for xenobiology programs. The government decided that understanding aliens was less important than building bigger weapons to fight them. She served drinks to 2 Eldorian customers, chatting easily with them about their families. Jake watched as she treated the aliens like old friends. This was completely different from the business relationships Jake maintained with alien suppliers and customers. "You seem comfortable around them," Jake said when she returned. "They're people just like us," Lisa replied. "They have families, hopes, fears. The Xanthari refugees didn't choose to leave their homes. They're running from the same extremists who attacked your ship." Jake studied the Xanthari refugees scattered around the cantina. He had always thought of Xanthari as potential enemies, but these beings looked tired and worried, not dangerous. Before Jake could respond, explosions echoed. From outside, the cantina fell silent as everyone turned toward the door. Through the windows, Jake could see flashes of light in the sky. "They're back," someone shouted. Panic began to spread through the cantina. Alien customers started moving toward the exits, while human patrons reached for weapons. Jake expected chaos, but Lisa jumped onto the bar and raised her voice. "Everyone stay calm," she called out in perfect English. Then she repeated the same message in Xanthari, Eldorian, and 3 other languages Jake didn't recognize. "Humans, grab the emergency supplies from the back room," she continued. "Xanthari families, take the children to the basement shelter. Eldorians, your night vision is better than ours. Help watch the windows." Jake was amazed. In seconds, Lisa had organized the mixed crowd into an efficient team. Humans and aliens worked together, following her instructions without question. No one argued about species differences or old conflicts. More explosions sounded outside, closer this time. Through the window, Jake saw Xanthari attack ships flying low over the town. These were not the same ships that had attacked his transport. This was a larger force. Lisa moved through the cantina, checking on families and making sure everyone had shelter. She helped an elderly Xanthari woman down the stairs to the basement. She bandaged a cut on a human miner's arm. She spoke calmly, to frighten children in whatever language they understood best. Jake had never seen anything like it. This bar waitress commanded more respect and loyalty from a mixed group of species than Jake managed with his own human employees. She did it without threats, without bribes, without showing superior strength. "How do you do it?" Jake asked when Lisa passed near him. "Do what?" "Get them to follow you. Humans and aliens working together." Lisa looked at him with surprise. I treat them like people. I listen to their problems, I help when I can, it's not complicated. Outside, the attack ships moved away toward other targets. The immediate danger had passed, but Jake knew they would return. He found himself wanting to stay in the cantina, to understand how Lisa had created this unity among such different species. For the first time in 30 years, Jake Morrison was curious about something that wasn't business. Jake Morrison told himself he was staying in Red Rock Station only because his ship needed repairs. Captain Mills worked on the damaged engines each day while Jake waited for parts from the mining facility. But every evening, Jake found himself walking back to Murphy's Cantina. He sat at the same stool at the bar ordering simple meals and watching Lisa work. She moved between customers like she was dancing, switching languages as easily as changing directions. One moment she would be helping a Zenthari family understand human currency. The next, she would be teaching human children how to say hello. In Aldorian, "You don't have to eat here every night," Lisa said on his third evening in town. "There are other places in Red Rock Station." "The food is acceptable," Jake replied, though he knew that wasn't the real reason. Lisa smiled as she cleaned glasses behind the bar. "Tell me about your business. What's it like running the biggest company in human space?" Jake was used to people asking about his wealth or his power, but Lisa seemed genuinely interested in the work itself. "It's about expansion," he said. "Humanity needs resources to grow stronger. Every planet we claim, every mining operation we build makes our species more secure." "Secure from what?" "From them." Jake nodded toward a table where 3 Zenthari refugees sat with their children. "Aliens have controlled the galaxy for thousands of years. They see humans as newcomers who don't belong. If we show weakness, they'll push us back to Earth." Lisa followed his gaze to the Zenthari family. "Those people fled their own government. The Zenthari Empire wanted to draft their oldest son for military service. They came here hoping their children could grow up in peace." Jake studied the family more carefully. The father worked as a cleaner in the human settlement. The mother helped in the school, teaching alien children to read human writing. Their son, who looked about 16, played games with human children his age. "How do you know their story?" Jake asked. "I asked them," Lisa said simply. "When people are in your bar every day, you get to know them. Keth there used to be a teacher on his homeworld. His wife Nala was a doctor. They gave up everything to keep their family safe." Jake had never thought about aliens as individuals with personal stories. In his business world, they were either customers, suppliers, or competitors. "Why should I care about their personal problems?" Lisa stopped cleaning, the glass in her hands. "Because understanding people makes you stronger, not weaker. Watch." She walked over to the Zenthari family and spoke to them in their language. The father's face lit up as he responded. Soon the whole family was laughing about something Lisa had said. When she returned to the bar, the father followed her. "This is Keth," Lisa said to Jake. "Keth, this is Jake Morrison. He owns the mining operation outside town." Keth looked nervous but extended his hand in the human custom. "Mr. Morrison, thank you for allowing my people to stay near your facilities. We are grateful for human protection." Jake shook the alien's hand, surprised by the firm grip. "You work in the settlement?" "Yes, sir. I clean the administrative buildings. My wife helps in the medical clinic. We try to be useful to the human community." "Keth used to design water systems for cities," Lisa added. "He could probably improve the efficiency of your mining facility's water recycling." Jake looked at the Zenthari with new interest. Water recycling was always a problem on mining worlds. "What kind of improvements?" Keth's nervousness faded as he began explaining technical details. His ideas were sophisticated and practical. Jake found himself engaged in the most useful technical discussion he'd had in months. After Keth returned to his family, Jake sat quietly at the bar. Lisa served other customers while he thought about the conversation. "Surprised?" Lisa asked, when she had a free moment. "He knows more about water systems than my chief engineer," Jake admitted. "Most of the refugees have useful skills. But human settlements usually don't ask what they can do. They just see aliens who need help." Jake looked around the cantina with different eyes. At one table, an Eldorian mechanic was showing human workers a new welding technique. At another, a crystalline being was teaching human children mathematical concepts that Jake recognized as advanced engineering principles. "You've created something unusual here," Jake said. "I've created what happens when people stop being afraid of each other," Lisa replied. "Humans have amazing determination and creativity. Aliens have knowledge and skills from thousands of years of civilization. When you combine them, you get something stronger than either could be alone." The next day, Jake visited the mining facility for the first time since arriving on New Austin. His site manager, Carl Watson, gave him a tour of the operations. The facility was running well, but Jake noticed several problems that had become routine. "The water recycling system breaks down twice a week," Watson explained. "We have to ship in replacement parts from 3-star systems away. It costs a fortune and slows production." Jake thought about his conversation with Keth. "What if I told you there was an expert in water systems living right here in Red Rock Station?" "I'd say bring him in for a consultation," Watson replied. "He's Zenthari." Watson's expression changed. "Sir, I don't think mixing alien workers with our human crews is a good idea. There could be security issues." Jake had made the same argument many times, but he found himself questioning it. "Set up a meeting. I want to hear what he has to say." 2 days later, Keth stood in the mining facility's main conference room, presenting his analysis to Jake and the senior staff. His suggestions were detailed and practical. Implementation would cost half as much as continuing to replace broken parts. "These modifications will increase water recycling efficiency by 30%, Keth explained. "They use principles that Zenthari engineers developed over centuries of living on desert worlds." Watson looked uncomfortable, but couldn't argue with the technical data. "It would work," he admitted. Jake made a decision that surprised everyone, including himself. "Hire him as a consultant. Full pay, temporary quarters in the facility housing area." After the meeting, Jake walked back toward town with Lisa, who had come to translate during the technical discussions. "That was brave," she said. "It was business. His ideas will save money and increase production." Lisa smiled. "Keep telling yourself that." They walked in comfortable silence until they reached the cantina. Jake realized he was enjoying these conversations with Lisa more than any business meeting he'd attended in years. "Why did you really stay here?" Lisa asked as they stopped at the cantina's entrance. Jake looked at her, then at the mixed crowd of humans and aliens visible through the windows. "I'm starting to think I've been missing something important." "What's that?" "The possibility that humanity's future isn't about beating other species. Maybe it's about learning from them." Lisa's smile was different this time, warmer and more personal. "Now you're thinking like a real leader." That night, Jake sat in his temporary quarters above the cantina, reading reports from his corporate headquarters. His assistant Kevin had sent dozens of messages asking when he would return to New Earth City. Board members wanted decisions on expansion plans. Competitors were trying to take advantage of his absence. For the first time in his life, Jake was not eager to return to his empire. The business world that had consumed 30 years of his life suddenly seemed small compared to what he was discovering on this frontier planet. He was beginning to understand that the strongest thing about humanity might not be their refusal to trust other species. It might be their ability to bring different peoples together and create something entirely new. Jake Morrison woke to the sound of urgent knocking on his door. The room above Murphy's Cantina was dark, but he could see the first light of dawn through the window. Captain Mills stood in the hallway, his face grim. "Sir, we just received an emergency transmission from your headquarters," Mills said. "The board is demanding your immediate return. There's been a major development." Jake dressed quickly and followed Mills to the repaired transport ship. The communication system crackled to life, showing the worried face of his assistant Kevin Brown. "Mr. Morrison, thank God you're safe," Kevin said. "Intelligence reports are coming in from across the frontier. The Zenthari attacks weren't random raids, they were reconnaissance missions." Jake felt cold fear in his stomach. "Reconnaissance for what?" "Full invasion, sir. Our spies in Zenthari space report massive fleet movements. They're gathering ships from 12 different sectors. The target appears to be all human frontier worlds, starting with New Austin. The screen switched to tactical displays showing Zenthari fleet positions. Jake counted over 300 warships moving toward human space. It was the largest alien military force ever assembled against humanity. "How long do we have?" Jake asked. 6 days, maybe 7, Kevin replied. "The board has voted to evacuate all frontier colonies. We're pulling back to the core worlds and preparing defensive positions." Jake stared at the tactical display. New Austin was directly in the invasion path. So were 15 other human colonies housing over 2 million people. But the evacuation would also abandon thousands of alien refugees who had sought protection in human space. "Sir, you need to return immediately," Kevin continued. "The board needs your authorization to begin the evacuation. Every transport ship in the fleet is being mobilized." Jake thought about Keth and his family, about the Aldorian mechanics who had shared their knowledge with human workers, about the crystalline teachers who had been helping human children learn advanced mathematics. All of them would be left behind. "I'll contact you in 1 hour," Jake said, ending the transmission. He walked back to the cantina, his mind racing. The logical choice was clear. Humanity could not risk extinction fighting for non-human lives. The board was right to evacuate. But the thought of abandoning the refugees made him feel sick. Lisa was already working in the cantina kitchen, preparing breakfast for the mixed crowd of early customers. She looked up as Jake entered, immediately noticing his expression. "What's wrong?" she asked. Jake told her about the intelligence reports and the planned evacuation. Lisa's face grew pale as she understood the implications. "You're leaving," she said. It wasn't a question. "The board has already voted. Every human transport ship will be used for evacuation. There won't be room for non-humans." Lisa set down the coffee pot she was holding. "What about the refugees? The families who trusted humanity to protect them? They'll have to find their own way to safety." "Where?" Lisa's voice rose. "The Zenthari Empire will kill any refugees they find. The other alien governments won't take them because they're already overcrowded with their own people fleeing the war." Jake had no answer. He knew Lisa was right, but he also knew the mathematics of survival. Humanity was outnumbered and outgunned. They needed every ship and every weapon to defend the core worlds. "This is what I was trying to show you," Lisa said quietly. "This is why cooperation matters. If we abandon these people now, we prove that humans can't be trusted. Every alien species in the galaxy will remember that when the war comes to their worlds. What choice do we have? If we stay and fight, we lose everything." Lisa looked out the window at the mixed crowd on the street. Human children were walking to school with Zenthari and Aldorian friends. Alien and human workers were heading to their jobs together. In 6 days, all of this would be destroyed. "There is another choice," she said. "We could stay and fight together, humans and aliens side by side." Jake shook his head. "The refugees don't have warships. They're civilians fleeing their own governments. But they have skills, knowledge, and reasons to fight. The Zenthari refugees know their empire's military tactics. The Aldorians understand advanced engineering. The crystalline beings have defensive technologies that could help protect our colonies." Before Jake could respond, the cantina door opened. Keth entered with several other refugee leaders. They had obviously heard about the invasion threat. "Mr. Morrison," Keth said, "we know about the Zenthari fleet. We also know about the human evacuation plans." Jake felt embarrassed, as if he had been caught breaking a promise. "The situation has changed. The threat is too great." An elderly Aldorian woman stepped forward. "Mr. Morrison, my name is Vera. I was a military engineer before I fled my world. The Zenthari Empire has one weakness that your human intelligence may not know about." Jake listened as Vera explained the Zenthari fleet's dependency on quantum crystal fuel. Their ships needed to refuel every few days during long campaigns. If the fuel supply could be disrupted, the entire invasion force would be stranded. "Your mining operation here produces the same type of crystals," Vera continued. "We could modify your industrial equipment to create quantum mines. Plant them in the asteroid fields where the Zenthari fleet will refuel." Keth nodded. I have contacts among Xanthari military officers who oppose this war. They could provide information about fleet movements and refueling schedules. Jake found himself listening to a plan that was both brilliant and desperate. The refugees weren't just asking for human protection. They were offering to fight alongside humanity using knowledge and skills that could make the difference between victory and defeat. Even if your plan works, Jake said, we'd still be outnumbered 3-1. My board will never approve staying. To fight. Lisa stepped beside him. Then don't ask for approval. You're Jake Morrison. You own more ships and resources than most governments. Make your own decision. Jake looked around the cantina at the faces watching him. Human miners who had worked for his company for years. Alien refugees who had trusted humanity to protect them. Children of both species who had grown up together as friends. For 30 years, Jake had made decisions based on profit and corporate survival. Now he faced a choice that would define not just his own future, but the future of human-alien relations throughout the galaxy. If we do this, he said slowly, we can't do it halfway. We'd need every ship, every resource, every person willing to fight. Keth smiled. Mr. Morrison, you have given us hope when our own governments abandoned us. We will fight for that hope. Jake walked to the cantina's communication terminal and opened a channel to his corporate headquarters. Kevin's face appeared on the screen, along with several board members. Mr. Morrison, thank God, Kevin said. We're ready to begin evacuation immediately. Jake took a deep breath. Cancel the evacuation order. The silence on the communication channel was complete. Finally, board member Helen Price spoke up. Jake, you can't be serious. The risk is too great. The risk of abandoning our principles is greater, Jake replied. We're staying to fight, and we're fighting alongside our alien allies. The board will vote to remove you as CEO, Price warned. Jake looked at Lisa, who was watching him with an expression he had never seen before. It was pride mixed with something deeper, something that made his heart beat faster. Let them vote, Jake said. I've found something more important than corporate control. He ended the transmission and turned to face the room full of humans and aliens, who were now looking at him with hope instead of fear. We have 6 days to prepare for the biggest fight in human history, Jake announced. Who's with me? The answer came in multiple languages, but the meaning was clear in every voice. They would stand together. Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching enemy ships fill the space around New Austin. 300 Xanthari warships had arrived exactly when the refugees predicted. But Jake was no longer the same man who had crashed on this planet 2 weeks ago. His corporate fleet had been transformed into a fighting force. Mining ships carried weapons hastily built by Aldorian engineers. Transport vessels had been converted into hospitals by crystalline healers. Even his luxury yacht now bristled with defensive systems designed by refugee scientists. Enemy fleet is taking formation, reported Captain Mills. They're demanding our immediate surrender. Jake looked at the mixed crew working on his bridge. Humans operated the weapon systems while Xanthari refugees provided intelligence about enemy tactics. Aldorians managed the advanced engineering systems they had helped install. Everyone worked together as if they had trained for years. Open a channel to all ships, Jake ordered. The communication system connected him to over 100 vessels. Some were his corporate ships. Others belonged to human colonists who had chosen to stay and fight. A few were small refugee craft that had been armed with whatever weapons they could carry. This is Jake Morrison, he announced. 2 weeks ago, I thought strength meant standing alone. Today I know that real strength comes from standing together. We fight not just for human colonies, but for the idea that different species can be family. On the main screen, the Xanthari fleet began moving toward the planet. Jake had seen the tactical reports. His force was outnumbered 3-1. In any normal battle, they would be destroyed within hours. But this was not a normal battle. Execute Operation Unity, Jake commanded. Across the system, hidden quantum mines activated in the asteroid fields where the Xanthari fleet expected to refuel. The explosions lit up space like new stars. Dozens of enemy ships found themselves stranded without fuel, exactly as the refugee engineers had predicted. At the same time, signals went out from Keth's hidden transmitters. Xanthari military officers who opposed the war received messages with the location of their own fleet's weak points. Within minutes, some Xanthari ships turned their weapons on their own comrades. "Sir, we're receiving transmissions from other star systems," Mills reported. "The Crystalline Confederation is sending ships to support us. They say humanity has proven worthy of alliance." Jake felt a surge of hope. But the main Xanthari battle fleet was still advancing toward New Austin. The real fight was just beginning. Lisa's voice came through his personal communicator. She was coordinating the planet's defenses from Murphy's Cantina, which had become the command center for civilian evacuation and medical aid. "Jake, the Xanthari are landing troops on the southern continent," she reported. "We need air support." "On our way," Jake replied. He turned to his mixed crew. "Take us into the atmosphere. We're going to show these invaders what happens when you threaten our home." The flagship dove toward the planet's surface, followed by a dozen other ships. Below them, Xanthari ground forces were attacking human settlements and refugee camps. But they met resistance they had not expected. Human colonists fought alongside Xanthari refugees against the Imperial troops. Aldorian engineers used their technical skills to sabotage enemy equipment. Crystalline beings created defensive barriers that protected evacuation sites. Jake's ships struck the enemy landing forces with precision strikes guided by refugee intelligence. They knew exactly where to hit to cause maximum damage with minimum risk to civilians. The battle raged for 6 hours. Jake's fleet fought with desperate courage, but they were taking heavy losses. Enemy reinforcements kept arriving while his forces grew weaker. Then something unexpected happened. New ships appeared at the edge of the system. Not just crystalline vessels, but Aldorian warships, moderate Xanthari rebels, and species Jake had never seen before. The news of humanity's stand had spread across the galaxy. "This is Admiral Zara of the Aldorian Defense Fleet," came a transmission. "We stand with humanity and all who fight for freedom." "This is Commander Vox of the Xanthari Liberation Front," said another voice. "We will not let our empire destroy innocent lives." Jake watched in amazement as the tide of battle turned. What had begun as humanity's desperate last stand became a galactic uprising against tyranny and hatred. The main Xanthari fleet, caught between multiple enemies and running out of fuel, began to retreat. Their invasion had failed not because of superior firepower, but because their enemies had something they lacked: unity. As the last enemy ships fled the system, Jake returned to New Austin's surface. He found Lisa in the cantina, treating wounded soldiers of half a dozen different species. She looked exhausted but smiled when she saw him. "We did it," she said simply. Jake took her hands in his. They were covered with bandages and alien blood from helping the wounded. He had never seen anything more beautiful. "No," he said. "You did it. You showed me that love isn't weakness. It's the strongest force in the universe." Lisa looked at him with surprise. "Jake Morrison, are you telling me you love me?" "I'm telling you that I love you, and I love what you've taught me about being human. About being more than human." Jake kissed her there in the cantina, surrounded by humans and aliens who had fought together and won together. It was his first kiss in 30 years, and it felt like the beginning of a new life. 6 months later, Jake and Lisa stood together on the deck of a new kind of ship. The Harmony was the first vessel designed jointly by human and alien engineers. It served as the headquarters for the interspecies alliance that had grown from their victory at New Austin. Jake had been removed as CEO of Morrison Dynamics by his board, just as they had threatened. But he had used his personal wealth to create something far more valuable: a trading company that operated across species lines, sharing technology and resources for the benefit of all. "The Xanthari Empire has agreed to the peace treaty," Lisa reported, reading from a datapad. "They're releasing all political prisoners and allowing refugees to return home safely." Jake nodded, watching ships from a dozen different species dock at the orbital station they had built together. Human children played with alien friends in the station's gardens. Scientists from multiple worlds worked side by side in the research laboratories. "What's our next project?" Jake asked. Lisa smiled and showed him the datapad. "The Galactic Council has invited us to establish cultural exchange programs on 50 worlds. They want to learn how we created peace between such different species." Jake put his arm around Lisa's waist and pulled her close. "We tell them the truth. That love is stronger than fear. That cooperation is more powerful than conquest. And that sometimes the best way to lead is to bring everyone else along with you." They watched the stars together, knowing that somewhere out there other species were learning the lesson that had transformed Jake's life. The greatest strength comes not from standing alone, but from choosing to stand together. The galaxy would never be the same. And neither would Jake Morrison, the man who had avoided love for 30 years until he met a bar waitress who changed everything.